Hello and welcome to the first episode of This Week in the Bay, our weekly podcast on the Bay Area. I am Chris Jose Nixon. I'm your host. I'm here with my co-host, Drew Jose Nixon.
Hi, I'm Drew Jose Nixon. This is our show, Bay Area Sports. Here we're going to talk about all the Bay Area sports teams, and then we'll also have one part of the show where we talk about one big story in the league. So, to tell us more about that, here's going to be Chris.
So the Bay Area, we're not a big college sports market. We don't have big college sports towns here. So our main focuses on this show will be, we're going to talk MLB for sure. We're going to have Oakland Athletics. We're going to have San Francisco Giants talk. So we're going to cover both of those Bay Area baseball teams. We're going to talk NBA. So that's going to be the Golden State Warriors for sure. And then NFL, we're going to talk about the 49ers and the Oakland Raiders, at least for this season, until the Raiders move. But that's not what we're talking about today. And so today, we're going to have a wide array of topics for you. But let's jump right into the one big thing. It's going to be baseball today, Drew. I know that's your favorite sport. And we're going to talk about your favorite team, I think. And so let's talk about the NL East race. Drew, what are your thoughts right now on how the NL East is shaping up? Who do you think is going to win? Any wild cards from that division? Just tell me, what do you think about that?
Well, you might remember us from NSR, SBC, LA.
Yes, sir.
On August 7th, I was doing the baseball podcast, and I said that to win the NL East, I had the Phillies. I no longer believe in that. I think Acuna on the Braves has developed a lot more than people thought. And because of that, I think it's going to be a much easier road for the Braves to win the division over the Phillies. I think I see the Phillies in that tight wild card race. I don't know if they will win because of how tight the wild card race is, but I definitely have the Braves for the league, and the Phillies could be fighting for a wild card spot.
And just to update you, right now in the NL East, we have the Braves 3 games up on the Phillies. And I was also on that NSR show, the SBCLA NSR show on baseball. And if I remember correctly, I believe that I picked the Atlanta Braves to win the division. I like that team. I didn't. I picked the Phillies.
You were gonna pick the Braves, but I'm the biggest Braves fan there, and I picked.
Oh, that's
Phillies.
right. That's right.
And then Chris was like, "Well, if he's not picking the Phillies, or if he's not picking the Braves, then I shouldn't be picking the Braves."
That's true.
Either.
That is what I said. I remember that now. Yeah. So I was about to pick. Yeah, I was going to pick the Braves. I didn't end up picking them, but you know what? If he believes in the Braves now, then I'm gonna have to believe in the Braves. I mean, you look at what they have on the hitting side of things. The first 4 guys, it's an absolutely deadly. That's an absolutely deadly beginning of an order. You have Acuna, Albies, Markakis, and Freeman, and no matter how you order those 4 guys, it's gonna be tough to stop. I mean, they've got a really good team. I think they'll be even better in the future, but I think that the Braves will end up coming out of that division, and I think the Phillies can compete for a wild card. But the wild card race, and actually both, is so stacked in both the NL and the AL. But right now, for the NL wild card race, I think they can compete for a wild card. Right now, they're 2 games out of the second wild card spot. I honestly don't see them doing it because right now they're ahead of the Dodgers. They're ahead of Pittsburgh. They're ahead of the Nationals. I think that team is not quite going to be able to compete with those other wild cards. Let me tell you this stat right here. The Phillies right now, 2 games out of a wild card spot, are +1 in run differential in the season. The Dodgers are 3.5 games out of a wild card spot. They're plus 116 runs this season. They're not on that upper echelon of teams. The Nationals are plus 61 this season in run differential. They're not up there with those teams that are fighting for wild cards. And in terms of run differential, I think that eventually things will even themselves out, and they won't end up being in one of those top 2 wild card spots.
One of the things that really bothers me, there's actually 2 things. One, they have to play some good teams down the stretch. Obviously, Braves and Nationals, they'll have to play at least one time each. They'll have to play some other good teams in the National League. And so that's going to be a problem for them. They also have to leap over 2 teams. Now, the 3 teams that are in front of them are the surging Rockies, who are surprisingly good, although our very own Russell Tabor says differently. They have the best pitching staff of all time. So
Arguably.
and then they'd have to get through the Rockies, the Brewers. They'd have to get through 2 of these 3 teams, Rockies, Brewers, and Cardinals.
Yep.
They've all looked extremely good at points this season. The Brewers are the coldest right now, but I think the Brewers are the overall most talented. So I don't know which of those teams they're going to be able to, which 2 of those teams they're going to be able to jump over to get into the wild cards.
And don't forget, LA, if they were able to stay healthy, I think LA would be winning their division. And like I said, they're plus 116 in run differential this year. LA is sitting right behind them.
Well,
so it's going to be tough for them to really leapfrog teams.
I don't get to choose who makes the playoffs, but if you ask me, the Dodgers might be the most talented team in the National League. And that is not biased by any means. We are from the Bay Area.
We don't like the Dodgers.
We hate the Dodgers, but they still might be the most talented team.
Yeah, I think if the Dodgers stayed healthy, they'd be on top of that division. But that is neither here nor there. Both of us agreed, actually, on that pick for the Braves over the Phillies. But the thing about the Phillies is that you mentioned they have to play tough teams like the Nationals and the Braves, but they also get to play Miami and New York a bunch. So they do have, I'm looking at their schedule actually right now, they do have a lot of upcoming games right now that are against lackluster opponents such as Toronto. You've got Miami a number of times, as well as the Mets for a multiple 3-game sets. But then you do have those games against the Nationals, Rockies, Atlanta Braves. You've got some tough games ahead, and it's getting down to it. You're gonna have to start winning now.
Their last 11 games, 7 of them are against the Braves. That's their only chance to get the division. And then they play 4 against the Rockies. That's
in Colorado, where anything can happen. That's
their
thing.
only chance to make the wild card game. So they would have to do something in one of those. Actually, in the last 11 games, they would have to have a very good last 11 games.
Last 17 too, because there's 6 games before that are against the Mets and the Marlins, and you have to beat up on those bad teams if you really want to be competing for a playoff spot. You can't be dropping one or two of 3. Or you can't be dropping 2 or 3 against the Mets and expecting to make the playoffs. You can't do that. You have to beat those teams.
You gotta have it be a team effort against the Marlins, because if you have one of your guys go 5 for 5, then he's gonna get hit the next day.
Well, that was a dirty move. Anywho, let's move on to our next topic. Now we're gonna dive into some more Bay Area type topics, but not just Bay Area. We gotta make sure everyone can enjoy this show. So we're gonna move over to football now, and in football, you know what time it is in this year. It's the end of August. Football season is right around the corner, and that means it's fantasy football season. So we got a few things to talk about right now. I don't know if you have any of your picks yet, Andrew, but what are you thinking for those top 3 fantasy football players this year?
Well, what I've been telling everybody is I really like Juju Smith-Schuster this year.
Top 3, Drew. Top 3.
Maybe not, but realistically, since I win every year in our fantasy football league, I finished. I had the best record and finished second. I had the second best record and finished first, and I had the 4th best record and finished 6th.
So you won once. You don't win every year.
So I'm one of the premier teams in our football league. So I often have a bad pick. So realistically, I think that my first round pick would be a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster. But the top players
6th this year, so you have a better pick now.
The top players in this league, I would have to give it to the Rams' Todd Gurley. Obviously, he's gonna be good this year. We saw him win Offensive Player of the Year last year. That was big for him. I think it's going to be more of the same this year. I don't like Antonio Brown this year.
Oh, okay. Come on now. How can you not like Antonio Brown?
Because I don't like Le'Veon Bell. I think he's not involved enough with the team.
So if you don't like Le'Veon Bell, then don't pick Le'Veon Bell. Then Ben Big Man has to throw the ball.
Because Le'Veon Bell is looking for a new contract. Then Antonio Brown's gonna get this more targets, which is gonna create people double teaming Antonio Brown.
Oh, that's never happened before? Really? Do you think they didn't realize Antonio Brown's the best wide receiver in the NFL yet?
Let's
be honest.
I don't like him.
Let's be honest.
So my top three are gonna be Todd Gurley, and then David Johnson. Obviously, basically, the deal with David Johnson is your quarterback sucks, you're gonna be pretty good. And then third, I have Christian McCaffrey, another team where his quarterback's been struggling. They announced that they're gonna be running the offense through him, so I think that he's going to be a big part of them, and he's my third pick.
Okay, I have a few things to comment on that. First of all, how stupid is that to announce who you're running your offense through? That's so dumb. Like, why would you say that? Anyways,
why do you think the Panthers are bad?
Yeah, well, there it is. Anywho, you said that your quarterback is trash in terms of talking about David Johnson, so that means he's going to have good stats. Why doesn't that go the same way for Antonio Brown? If you know the quarterback in Arizona is going to suck, then why wouldn't you load the box with 8 guys and stop David Johnson?
Because you can't stop David Johnson.
And you can stop Antonio Brown?
Yes, because you can get double covered.
You can put every single player in the box and against David Johnson. Like, I mean, if you can't block every single player, he can make people miss, but if there's 3 guys running free at him, he's not getting loose unless maybe a few times throughout the season he'll be able to break 3 different tackles on the same play. But come on now, it has to go a little bit both ways. You can't say that this team's one-dimensional so he's going to shine, but this team's one-dimensional so he is going to get all the focus, he's not going to be able to shine.
Well, that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm just saying that because of that, I think that you're going to see more targets out of Juju. He's going to get some more targets.
Oh, so you think that they're going to switch their offense over to Juju?
Not just Juju. But
you're thinking that Juju's going to be the one thriving because of the running game's bad, as opposed to Antonio.
Yeah.
Okay, that actually does make sense. So let's move on. I haven't been putting too much thought into fantasy football, which probably means I'm going to lose every league I'm in this year. I've never won a league, but I've had some solid teams. I've had some injuries that have derailed what I thought were solid teams. Like, don't pick Jimmy Graham. That's a safe bet. I picked Marshawn Lynch when he got hurt. Yeah, it's been tough for me in fantasy football.
Oh, also,
so you might not want to take advice from me.
Funny story. A couple years ago, me and Chris were in the same league. So we make a lot of trades since we live in the same house. You can negotiate as much as you want, and
you negotiate no matter whose house you're living in. You'll negotiate with anybody.
Yeah, that's the truth. You heard it here first. But I'm a huge Drew Brees fan. My name is Drew.
Yes.
I'm just a Drew Brees fan. I really wanted Drew Brees. I traded Drew Brees for Matthew Stafford, I think, or Matt Ryan, or someone.
Someone I thought was
pretty
good.
They were pretty good.
I had Drew Brees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Drew Brees.
And he had Drew Brees. Yeah. And we made this trade, and the next week was the week that Drew Brees went for 62 points.
I was so mad.
And
Drew
I had
Brees
started him. So I scored 150
all year
points.
For me.
And then the other hilarious thing was my friend had Matthew Stafford and Eli Manning, and he couldn't decide who to start. And he literally put one in, and the other one would go for 30 points, and then he put them in, and the other one would go for 30 points.
No matter which one he put in, every week, the quarterback sitting on the bench would have a big week. And the quarterback in the starting lineup would not have such a big week.
And so on this particular week, he put in Matthew Stafford, and then his backup quarterback went for 53 points.
Wow, that's rough.
It was really tough. And the worst part is he lost by 5 points.
Oof.
So that's just some stories.
But let's get back into these picks. So I like I said, I haven't done too much research yet. I'm going to lose every fantasy football league I'm in. So, honestly, you might not want to take advice from me. But let's talk about the Rams a little bit. I really think that's a great team. Especially if you look at the defense. You got Brandon Cooks now, big weapon. He's got so much speed out there. He's going to help Jared Goff out a lot. And then you've got Todd Gurley. The man just got paid. He got his money. But I don't know if he's going to be able to be a top 3 pick this year. I am going to pick Ezekiel Elliott David Johnson, and Le'Veon Bell as my top 3 fantasy players. And let me explain why. It's not in that order, sorry. It's going to be David Johnson 1, Zeke 2, and then Bell 3. So, David Johnson is number 1 for obvious reasons. He was the consensus number 1 pick really last year in most leagues. However, he did get injured. I think he'll bounce back from his injury, and he'll do what David Johnson does. And the reason that I have these 3 backs in here, you'll see in a moment. If you think about what all these 3 backs do, is that they're able to make people miss in space, which you need to be able to do if you want to get big plays, which is what gets you fantasy points. And 2, because they're able to make people miss in space, they're very good threats off of the screen passes, and in other normal pass plays, they'll be check down routes, and they'll turn those into 10, 15-yard gains. And that's really valuable because when you have a running back who is able to not only run the ball out of the backfield, but also make a lot of receptions and get yards and get even touchdowns sometimes that way, then you have a big threat, which ends up eating up more of the offense's plays. Like, if you remember back in the days of, remember the Jamal, what's his name, the Chiefs running back from like years and years ago that got hurt?
Jamal something. I know who you're talking about, but I just don't.
I think he wore number 7. Anyway, so a few years, Jamal. I can't remember his name. Anyway, so a few years back, the Chiefs had a running back. You probably know who I'm talking about. Jamal Charles. That's who it was. Jamal Charles. A few years back, Jamal Charles was 33% of the Chiefs' offense. He was a third of their plays were either passes or runs to him. And when you're 33% of a team's offense, that means you're going to get a lot of yards, a lot of fantasy points. And that's what I think that those 3 guys each bring. When you look at the Cowboys, they lost Dez and they lost Jason Witten. So Dak Prescott, he's really going to have to rely on Zeke this year. And I think Zeke's going to get it done, playing a full season. Hopefully he doesn't get himself into any more trouble, and he's able to play a full season without any controversy. But so if he's able to do that, then he's going to be a target in the running game, especially, but also in the passing game in check down routes for Zeke or for Dak. And so I think he's going to be the second best player. I said David Johnson because he's a great player. They might have Josh Rosen play, and when you're a young quarterback, you want to have a safety net type of a lot of check down routes, tight end routes. It's a lot of short passes with young quarterbacks, I think, just to get them up to speed in the NFL, and so that's good to have screen passes in there to get your rhythm in, and to have little corner routes for running backs and just get easy completions. So I think that for those reasons, those guys will be up there. And Le'Veon Bell, he comes out, and when he plays full seasons, he really delivers. And even when he was getting suspensions all the time, playing 12-game seasons, he was still one of the best running backs and one of the best players. So I think Le'Veon Bell, I think he's taking it seriously, and he's going to stay in shape because he knows that next year he's a free agent, and next year he's going to be gone from the Steelers. And in a contract year, numbers always go up. I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess the players are just thinking about the money, but their numbers always go up in contract years. It's a contract year for Bell. He's going to try and be a free agent and get his money next year. So I think Bell delivers a huge year, and I think he's going to be third on this list.
He's been in a contract year the last couple years. He's been signed to, what are they called?
The franchise tag.
Yeah, he's been franchise tagged. So, how do you know he's going to play better?
Because he's gone. He's gone from the Steelers next year. He said that, and I think it was his agent said that somehow, that he's gone from the Steelers next year. So he knows he's leaving. This is his last year with the team, and it's not going to be any more franchise tagging. It's going to be, I'm out of here, and he's going to have to find a new home. And so I think he finds a new home because he's going to have a great year because he knows he needs to impress. And here's the thing. Yeah, he has been in contract years these last couple years, but he's also been a great player. He's been a top fantasy pick.
Yeah, but
and the only worry this year,
he's going to be better than he has been.
He doesn't have to be that much better.
But then
he barely has to be any better because he's already a top fantasy player. That's what I'm saying. The only worry this year that would make him not a top fantasy player is that he is taking forever to join the team.
Okay.
That's the only worry that anyone has with him, I believe.
Okay, now let's talk best quarterback. Chris, you can go first on this topic.
Well, Best fantasy quarterback, I think, is also the best quarterback in the NFL. And that is obviously Aaron Rodgers. Shout out to all my Tom Brady fans for that one. But Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL. He's going to be the best fantasy quarterback in the NFL. Dude makes huge plays, game-winning touchdowns, the Hail Marys, the 60-yard completions. He did lose Jordy Nelson, which is a bit of a concern, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still going to figure it out.
And he's still going to get injured.
That is a worry. He could get injured. But I still have Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback.
Literally every year, that is the biggest worry with him. Like, everybody knows he is hands down the most talented quarterback in the NFL. The question is, can he stay healthy? And honestly, that's what it's going to be coming down to. Can he stay healthy? And so it's really up to you. Do you think he can stay healthy?
And these ESPN lists, by the way, all agree with me. It's all Aaron Rodgers, number 1 quarterback. Tom Brady, though, is sitting at number 2.
And Juju's right behind Tom Brady on the list, by the way.
In total players?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's at 48, Drew. He's not a top 3 player, unfortunately, for Drew.
He is.
But,
by the way, Russell Wilson.
An interesting question, actually. I just saw the name Patrick Mahomes. I've seen a lot of love from, ESPN saying the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes are going to be good. I don't know, because I'm not a believer in Patrick Mahomes for this year. I don't think he's going to be all that great. He was really unpolished coming out of college. He has a great arm. He has incredible arm talent. And I think he's going to be a very good quarterback, but in maybe next year when he's able to polish it and get it all together and it'll click. I think there will be moments this year where he looks like he's a top-tier quarterback or one of those better quarterbacks that can really lead a team. But I think that his team, he's not going to be consistent enough this year to actually bring the Chiefs to win. I don't know. Drew, what do you think about that?
I agree. I don't like the Chiefs' position right now. They're clearly looking to get a little bit younger.
I do like that, though.
They have
because they can reset without completely rebuilding.
Yeah.
So they can, Tyreek Hill's a huge weapon. Kareem Hunt was incredible last year. And if Patrick Mahomes is able to get comfortable, then they'll actually have a solid team. And so I actually like the direction they're going. I just think that this year is not going to be a good year for them. Anyways, let's get back to our scheduled topics. Sleeper picks. You can talk about Juju, but I want to hear someone besides Juju that you think is a sleeper.
Well, obviously Juju's my number 1. So outside of Juju, I don't really know. Well, Kenyon Drake. I like Kenyon Drake. He was really good last year. I got him. I picked him up mid-season after Jay Ajayi got traded. Jay Ajayi was my big pick last year. After he got traded, I was like, oh, well, now he's going to be splitting time with 2 other running backs. That's not a good pick for me. So I got to get somebody else. And I was like, well, I guess who's their new running back? None other than Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake is an absolute horse. He can run as much as you need him to. And he will basically just be reliable. He's nothing too special. But considering that you have a choice between, Jay Cutler and Ryan Tannehill.
Anytime you have a choice between Jay Cutler and someone, it's obviously a bad situation. Sorry.
You have Jay Cutler and Ryan Tannehill as your two people you can start at quarterback.
So you have Kenyon Drake as your sleeper?
Yeah.
So my sleeper is definitely going to be a man that Drew loves, by the way. A man by the name of Marquise Goodwin. You love Marquise Goodwin, don't you?
I like Marquise Goodwin.
Here's why. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know if he'll be quite as great as he was last year because that was honestly incredible the way that he was able to come in and just win. I didn't expect it, but I think he can't be that good again because it just wouldn't make sense because then he'd be like one of the best quarterbacks the Niners would be one of the best teams in the league if they kept playing like they were last year. But I think that the reason I think Marquise Goodwin is going to play well is that now he's got a full training camp, and this is he's coming into the year knowing Jimmy Garoppolo is his quarterback, and they've got him ranked right now at 68th overall and 31st among
30th.
Wide receivers. Not on this list. On my ESPN list,
he's in a 3-way tie.
What is it?
30th.
Oh, for 30th? Oh, 3-way tie for 30th, I guess, among wide receivers. So, 30th among wide receivers, and like around the 68 overall, around somewhere around 68, 70 area overall in terms of best players. And I think it's disrespectful, honestly, that you have that man ranked 30th. I mean, that means that basically there's 32 teams in the NFL, so that means that there's basically almost every team in the NFL has a wide receiver better than he is. And if you look at his stats last year, I mean, the man had 56 catches for 962 yards.
Well, here's how
He didn't have too many touchdowns, but I think that in terms of the yards and the big plays, he's going to be able to play very well this year, and he's going to be a sleeper pick. He's not a number one wideout for your team, but he's going to be a good number 2, I think. And I think his touchdowns will go up because he now has a good quarterback as opposed to T.J. Beathard, who's a backup.
He's tied with, like, Devin Funchess, so that's how we know he got screwed over, and he's also just don't trust them on everything. Don't trust these guys on everything.
So, yeah, my sleeper pick, Marquise Goodwin. Drew's sleeper pick, Kenyon Drake. And that is going to wrap it up for the football section. So, let's move into the juicy stuff. NBA free agency. There was a lot of moves that went down that shook the landscape of the league. And one of them in particular was controversial. Two of them, in particular were controversial. We'll get into those. But for now, let's talk about the biggest story of the offseason. It's L.A. Braun. What's up with L.A. Braun, Drew? Let me hear your thoughts in general on that move. Or here, how about this? Do you think it was a good move for LeBron?
No, it was a terrible move for LeBron.
Why? Okay. And are you talking about in terms of winning, or in terms of LeBron as a person?
In terms of winning.
In terms of winning. Okay, that makes more sense.
Going to the West makes no sense, and he has so much smaller of a chance of making the playoffs.
That is true, but I mean, it's LeBron. He's gonna make the playoffs.
Also, I just didn't like how opening up a school is great, hands down. There's no disagreeing with that, and congratulations, I applaud him for that. But you open up a school and you immediately leave the state for good. That really kind of bothered me. Like,
why?
He opens up the school, but then he has nothing to do with it now.
Nothing to do with the school. Well, he's paying for the school. He's not going to be at the school all the time, but I mean, he's still paying for it. But anyways, this is not the topic we're trying to talk about right now.
By the way, quick update. Giants just scored on a Longoria sacrifice fly. McCutcheon scored.
A rarity. I thought McCutcheon got traded. Anyway, that's a rarity. The Giants scoring in the first inning. That does not happen often. Anywho, back to basketball. So you think it was a bad move for LeBron because... Well, let's not talk about the school thing. That's a topic for a different day. But let's talk about basketball-wise. Do you think it's because he can't win there that it's a bad move?
Yeah.
Okay, well...
I don't think... If your goal is to win, which it usually is in the NBA...
Especially for LeBron.
Moving from the East to Western Conference is not smart.
Okay. So, if you think it's a bad move for him winning-wise, do you think that he should have gone to Philadelphia? Because, honestly, that seems like the one place where, besides Boston, which Kyrie would just leave, that feels like the one place where they could have had LeBron, and it could have really made him a contender. But what do you think about that? Where do you think he should have gone?
I would have liked that a lot better. I would have liked Philadelphia. I mean, obviously, everybody made a huge bid for LeBron. But if you went to Philadelphia, you'd have a really scary starting lineup. You'd have Simmons at the 1. Who knows who'd be? They wouldn't be able to afford J.J. Redick.
J.J. Redick? You think J.J. Redick's not taking the minimum to play with LeBron?
That's true.
I mean, he should be.
Redick at the 2, or Robert Covington at the 2, LeBron at the 3, Dario Saric at the 4, and Joel Embiid at the 5.
That's absolutely incredible squad right there.
That's 2 starting All-Stars from last year, and the Rookie of the Year from last year. And not even the Warriors can say that.
Honestly, well, the Warriors have 5 starting All-Stars from last year, but...
No, they
Boogie...
didn't.
Or not 5 starters. 3 starting All-Stars. 5 All-Stars. Because Boogie was a starter, but then he got hurt.
They had 3. Oh, yeah.
But 5 All-Stars from last year. Anyways, but Yeah, they're gonna. And the thing is that Robert Covington, it makes sense to put him in the starting lineup because he's a 3-and-D guy. He can shoot. He plays good at defense, and then JJ Redick brings scoring off the bench. So that would be a team that is you could easily see going to the finals past Boston, and you could definitely see putting up a fight against Golden State. But here's why I think that it made sense for LeBron to make that move. Winning wise, in terms of winning this year, it makes no sense at all. The Lakers sucked last year. There was a lot of better teams that he could have gone. He could have gone to Houston if he really wanted to win this year. But it made so much sense because we're talking about LeBron, who is he's 33 right now. I think he's 30. He's a 33-year-old man, and he's got three kids. Sorry, one of them who's going. Yeah, he's 33. He turns 34 at the end of this year. He's got 2 children, one of which is now he's an 8th grader, I believe, and then the other one, 3 children. He's got 3 kids. Okay. They're getting older. They're going to be going to high school soon. He's got to focus on his family some. And his family wanted to be in LA because who doesn't want to be in LA? Come on now. I mean, sunny weather, all that.
The people that have to pay, that's who doesn't.
Well, LeBron doesn't have to worry about his money. LeBron can buy anything he wants. Anyways, so I mean, his family wanted to be in LA. He's pulled off a ton of business deals just this summer since he got there. And so he's working on his movie production, other things like that. So it makes a lot of sense for him off the court to be in LA. And the thing about on the court in LA is that they do have a bunch of things that are important to winning a championship. They just don't have. They're missing at least one big piece and maybe a couple more smaller pieces. First of all, they need a second star to play with LeBron because they don't have the Robin. They have Batman, LeBron, but they don't have Robin yet. Right now. And they need Kawhi, which I think is going to happen. And they have a good supporting cast right now. They have Kuzma, Ball, they have Ingram. They have guys that are going to get better and guys that are going to serve as a good supporting cast for LeBron once Kawhi arrives, if he does arrive. So as long as they get Kawhi, it's a good move though. But if they don't get Kawhi, then LeBron's there for 3 more years, and I don't know who he's going to play with unless maybe DeMarcus Cousins has a good year and the Lakers sign him. So I think it all entirely depends on who they are able to get. But now,
speaking of DeMarcus Cousins, let's talk about the Warriors and how DeMarcus Cousins will affect them.
All right. Well, this move, I like the move, obviously, for the Warriors because they don't have to rush Boogie back. They can take him when he's ready. And then I think that they talk to Boogie enough to know that he is down for playing in the system that they have created, and that he is going to understand that he's not going to be the first option scoring or even the second option scoring. So I think that as long as Boogie understands that, it's an incredibly good move for Golden State, and I think it's a very good move for Boogie because what else are you going to do? It's a perfect situation for you to be in because now you're on a team that doesn't need to rush you back. They can let you heal up, and then they can let you play the rest of your year until you hopefully can go get your money. And both sides know that if all goes right, Boogie will finish next season with a fat diamond ring on his finger and hundreds of millions of dollars in his pocket from another team.
It's a great deal for him. I mean, you look and you really get to see that. First of all, he gets to heal as he heals properly. Second of all, when he comes back, it's good for the Warriors because he's just one more guy you got to guard.
Oh, yeah.
And third of all, he gets to showcase himself in different aspects of his game because he's no longer that star. So he gets to show off his passing a little more. And those things you're not exactly looking for, but could definitely go the extra mile to get him a big contract.
And everyone was complaining about this move, talking about it was weak. Why would you go join the Warriors? He didn't have any other contract offers up. You think the Lakers could have offered him that same deal? I mean, I don't know why they didn't. They could have offered him like the deal they offered Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which I believe was 1 year, $12 million. Why don't you offer that to Boogie? You wouldn't take half a season of Boogie over Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, really? I don't know. I feel like that every front office in the league sort of fell down on the job and screwed that one up, if I'm being honest. But in terms of front offices screwing things up, let's talk about the Houston Rockets. I don't know what other people think about this team, but I don't believe in the Houston Rockets right now. let's think about what made them a good team last year. They've been a good offensive team since basically James Harden got there. They've been good on offense. James Harden's a bucket getter. They have a good offense. But last year they were good because they had Chris Paul, they had Trevor Ariza, they had PJ Tucker, and they had Luka Mute. And all those guys, what could they do? They play defense. They're defenders. And they were able to play top 10 defense as well as playing as the best offense in the league. And when you have those two together, you get the best record in the NBA, and that's what made them so good. And they lost Trevor Ariza to the Suns and Luka Mute to the Clippers, and I think that that's really going to hurt them because now they're replacing those two guys with Melo, and God knows Melo hasn't played defense ever. I mean, he doesn't do defense. He's like another James Harden type player, except for he's washed. So I think that Houston's really going to have a tough time this year. They're still going to be the second best team in the West, but in terms of in the playoffs, I could see the Lakers beating them in a scenario.
Yeah, I definitely think they have a lot of trouble guarding KD and LeBron even more so right now because, I mean, their two best options because of height were Luka Mute and then Trevor Ariza. They no longer have either of those guys, so now you either have to take
you think PJ Tucker's guarding KD?
He's 6'4". He can't guard KD.
Exactly.
He can take a lackluster Ryan Anderson.
Ryan Anderson doesn't play any defense either. Like, it's... I don't know.
Like, at this point, like, Melo's not even good at offense. Now you want him to play defense? Like, what?
Melo can shoot, but you really think Melo is going to agree to a role where he stands on the three-point line and spots up threes? As much as that was his role last year, you know Melo doesn't want to do that. Melo still thinks he's a top 5 player. He wants the ball. Like,
that was his role last year, and guess what happened to the Thunder?
They sucked. They lost to a rookie and a tall French dude that can only block shots. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are really good players, but come on now. You have Russell Westbrook and Paul George. You should be able to beat that team.
Now, to be fair, Russell Westbrook did not help his team win and will never help a team win.
And Paul George sucked in Game 6.
Because of his play style.
He was... Oh! The Giants scored 3 more runs.
4 runs. Brandon Crawford hit a 3-run ding-dong.
Let's go.
Shout out to Brandon Crawford. We're about to win. Oh, on Players Weekend, by the way. But anyways, let's get back to the show.
So, yeah, I'm not the biggest Rockets believer. I don't know. It doesn't add up to me.
Idiot.
I think the Rockets are not going to be able to work up the magic that they worked up last year, and I think that the Lakers, right now, I'm thinking the Lakers over the Rockets in 7 games in the 7-game playoff series. Lakers 4 games, Rockets 3. I'm sorry, Rockets fans, but that seems to be how it's shaping up in my eyes. Anything else on that one, or
nope,
ready to move on?
Topic.
All right, and we've got a 2-part topic. Let's talk about the Kawhi trade first. So, Kawhi Leonard played 9 games for the Spurs last year. He scored like 17 points a game. It was nothing special, and he was basically either injured or pretending to be injured all year. I think he was kind of a little bit injured still, as someone who just had a major surgery myself last year. I do understand knowing and not knowing when you're ready to be back yet. That does make sense to me. I get that concept. But I want to know what you think about the Raptors first. What are Kawhi and the Raptors going to do, and what were the Raptors thinking with that trade? Do you think it's going to work out? What thoughts on that?
They were thinking that they could possibly extend Kawhi's contract after this year. This year would be a chance for them to convince Kawhi that he would stay. The problem is, as the Spurs just learned, Kawhi is very stubborn, and that's a terrible idea. So they basically just blew up their franchise. Now, one thing they did do is make it easier for them to tank, because now, next year, you're going to have a 37-year-old Kawhi Leonard who needs...
You mean Kyle Lowry?
Kyle Lowry, excuse me. Kawhi Leonard's going to leave, and then
for LA,
your best player is going to be Fred VanVleet. And
Fred VanVleet is going to be a future MVP. But no,
so, I mean, that's going to be why. That's my...
Here's the thing about that trade. Honestly, in terms of winning, I don't like the trade. It doesn't make sense to me. DeMar DeRozan was loyal to you. He just had the best season in franchise history under Coach of the Year, Dwayne Casey, who's no longer your coach. They also screwed that up really badly. But when you really think about it, it does make sense, because they weren't going to get past Boston or Philly in the playoffs for the rest of for that with that roster. They weren't getting past those teams with DeMar DeRozan, and especially not without Dwayne Casey. And Raptors fans kept saying, we need to get past them, do something, and so they did something. I mean, you can't complain when nothing happens, and as soon as they shoot their shot, they make their move, now you're complaining because you didn't want to do that. Like, you can't have it both ways. So it does make sense to me a little bit why they did it, because they were trying to get something up, but the problem is that I think they could have been competitive in that East for a few more years with DeMar DeRozan as the best player and Kyle Lowry as his sort of sidekick. So I don't think they should have done that, honestly, because I don't think they're getting Kawhi to re-sign. But like you mentioned, it does set them up perfectly with a Kyle Lowry in his 30s. You can trade him away, maybe get a pick. It does set them up perfectly to tank, and as we know with Philadelphia or in baseball, the Houston Astros, tanking is a good strategy in sports. It works if you do it correctly. So I think that it's going to end up with them having a good year this year, not all that great, losing in the Western or the Eastern Conference semis, and they're going to end up having to tank. But yeah, I don't like the move overall, but it's the more I thought about it, it does make a little bit of sense why they thought it was a good move. But I say keep DeMar DeRozan. He's been their best player in franchise history. He's been loyal to you. Obviously a huge fan favorite. And let's talk about DeMar DeRozan a little more now. His new team is the San Antonio Spurs. And a lot of people don't think the Spurs team is going to be able to do anything. But I have to disagree with that. But I want to know what you think, Drew. San Antonio Spurs, will they make the playoffs? How good will they be this year?
I actually want you to go first because...
Oh, you want me to go first?
My argument depends on yours.
So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I like this team. And their best player right now became DeMar DeRozan. And here's why I like this team. Because if you look at last year, they were the seventh... They had the seventh best record in the... Or they were the seventh seed in the Western Conference for the playoffs. 7th seed. And if you remember, the Western Conference was extremely close last year. It was a super close race that ended up with the so San Antonio's finished with 47 wins. The 3-seeded Portland Trailblazers finished with just 49 wins. So they were 2 games out of 3rd place. And they had Kawhi for 9 games, and you're now trading Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green now for DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl. I don't see how that team doesn't get a lot better. You essentially if you take the roster from last year to this year, you traded Danny Green for Jakob Poeltl and DeMar DeRozan, and Lonnie Walker. You added Lonnie Walker, and you got an improved DeJounte Murray because he's young and he's going to get better and better. That's what you did. You really think that team is not going to be 3 games better? Because that's all it takes to get them into the 3 seed at this point. Obviously, the Lakers are going to be a ton better, so they might be a 3 seed, but it doesn't take that much to get up into the upper level of the Western Conference. So I think that team is going to end up as a top 5 seed in the West, potentially top 4, because I think Popovich will figure out how to work his way around those 2 mid-range shooting players in DeRozan and Aldridge, and I think he'll coach them up. He'll teach them to become better shooters, more efficient, better defenders. All around, I think he'll make those 2 mesh, and they will end up competing in the West. However, I could also see a scenario where you have DeMar DeRozan, by the way. He just signed a long-term deal just a couple of years ago. So you do have DeMar DeRozan for a relatively long-term contract. DeMar DeRozan right now, he signed through the year 2019-20, and with a player option in 2021. And he's shown he's a loyal guy, at least to Toronto. And they're going to be able to give him a ton of money on his new deal. So he has 2 years guaranteed left. I think I could see a trade for Aldridge to get a different player to pair alongside DeMar DeRozan and see where that goes. So I think the Spurs are in a solid position right now where Popovich can make something work.
So, I don't have much to say. But basically, I feel like a lot of teams in the conference have gotten really a lot better. But the question is, who got the least amount better? And those teams are going to get booted from the playoffs by the new team. like the Lakers and possibly even the Clippers. So I definitely think that one of those teams that's going to miss the playoffs is the Trailblazers, who did nothing except for beef with KD. So
CJ McCollum's podcasts are hilarious, by the way. Anyways,
I'm not actually sure what I think there. I know they're going to be one of the teams that misses it. I don't know who's going to be the second team, but I think there will be a second team.
but the Lakers are making it, right?
Yeah,
And
the
then
Lakers, and I think the
Timberwolves. You think
the
them Timberwolves?
Timberwolves made it.
But do you
the
think they'll make it back
Nuggets,
though?
I don't know if the Timberwolves will get back. They're one of those teams on the fringe. It's Clippers, Nuggets,
Lakers.
Timberwolves.
Well, not Lakers, actually. Do you think the
Spurs
Spurs will be in there? Yeah.
Spurs, I think, are the best team in that group, but they are in the group.
And then the 6th seed was the Pelicans. That's an interesting one. What about them? Do you think they'll be there?
I like them. I think what they did this offseason is they kept Mirotic, who they actually played their best game with Mirotic and not really with Boogie.
True.
And they also
But
got
they lost
another
Rondo.
good power forward.
They got Julius Randle, who had a great
Julius
year.
Randle. Now, obviously, Alfred Payton, I don't know how he's on a playoff team because if you ain't good, you gone. But
He's no Rondo, that's for sure.
yeah, he's not even close to Rondo. So we'll see if they'll be able to make up for that. It's been a good talk here. Let's try to move it along.
We're talking baseball now. We're going back to baseball. A little full circle action for you guys, and it's a Bay Area show, so we got to talk a little more about the Bay Area to finish off this show. Let's talk about the Oakland A's first. Can they really contend in the? Can they make a deep playoff run? How far is their ceiling in this year in terms of a playoff run? And what about the AL West? How about them winning that division? What do you think?
I think that it's going to be fun to see who wins the AL West. The team that wins the AL West is in so much better of a position because they don't have to play the Yankees. I think the Yankees are definitely beating the A's in a wild card if they beat. But
well, you can say that, but it's still a one-game series, so anything can still happen. But yes, the Yankees would be definitely the favorite.
I'm taking the Yankees in that, but if the A's can end up taking the division, then they're in a very good position because then they'll get either the Astros or the Yankees, who that team will be missing their ace. And so I think that will be...
that's true. That's true. Especially for the Yankees. If the Yankees end up coming out of that, the rest of their pitching staff isn't strong. The Astros have two other guys besides Verlander that can pitch well. But the Yankees will have a tough time.
Yeah, but, I think that...
Wait, no, they won't be getting the winner of the wild card game, though. That's going to Boston.
Oh, yeah, never mind. But... So it would be Indians, A's. And actually, the A's have owned the Indians this year.
And according to you, the Indians are the most overrated team. And
the Indians are the most overrated team. They play in the worst division in baseball by so much. The second best team is literally the White Sox.
Yeah, I mean, the Indians' division, they're
Their
really
division
bad.
is
The
literally
White Sox,
a joke.
They've got the Tigers. Like, they don't have... They have some of the worst... They literally have some of the worst teams in the league. I mean... Are the Tigers... No, Tigers aren't... Well, no, it's as bad as the Orioles. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, the Indians arguably overrated because of those teams that they get to play so often. And I think the A's are going to... definitely going to make the playoffs. I don't think that Seattle's catching up with them the way that they've been able to play. That incredible bullpen that they've got. They've got Sean Manaea. They've got solid starting pitching. They've got so many guys that hit home runs. Matt Chapman's been incredible this year, especially defensively. But I don't think that they're taking the division. And here's why. Houston Astros, I think, are the best team in baseball still. And although they don't have the best record in the league, I think are they still third behind the Yankees?
Yeah.
So they're technically third right now. But they're just starting to get healthy. They're 3 games back of the Yankees, but they're just starting to get healthy right now. Altuve just got back from the his AAA assignment off from the DL. Carlos Correa just got back. He has had a tough year. He's had tons of injuries, and so because of that, because they've been so unlucky in terms of injuries this year, I see that team going deep into the playoffs if they're able to get healthy, and I think they will be able to get healthy. And I mean, you look at their order. When they're healthy, you're gonna have Springer, Altuve, Bregman, and Correa. Those are three really good players, three all-star type of players when they're healthy and they're playing their best. Three of those guys did make the all-star team this year. And I think that with that pitching staff, which we all know that pitching staff is incredible, behind this year, Verlander's been incredible, Morton, and also Garrett Cole. And don't forget Dallas Keuchel, former Cy Young Award winner. He's had a tough year, 3.54 ERA right now, but he's still a solid pitcher. I think that team is really they're gonna be just as good as the Red Sox.
The Astros, by the way, have one of the easiest schedules. They only play two more series against teams that are currently in the playoffs this series.
And they get 4 free wins against the Orioles to close out the season.
They play 3 against the A's, and they have 3 more against the Diamondbacks. But other than that, they play the Mariners and the Red Sox. My bad, missed one. So they have actually 3 series against teams in the playoffs. But still, they won't really have much trouble with winning because of their strength and schedule.
So yeah, do you think the A's will catch the Astros or no?
I do.
You do think
I do.
Well, I guess
A's
not really
surging.
catching them. They're barely behind.
Yeah,
the Astros
they're
right
about
now.
a game back. The A's are surging. They have.
And they do play each other again,
Yeah,
right?
they have a 3-game set. I think the A's can take 2 of 3, just like they did recently.
But when the Astros are healthy, they get Altuve and Correa and Springer back. Then that's why I think the Astros. Right now, the A's are 1.5 back of Houston.
I think it's really just who you think will win. It's starting from opening day again, just a shorter season. Who's the better team right now? The only difference is one of the teams has momentum, and that ultimately could be the difference.
And one of the reasons, by the way, I'm going to go back to run differential. I really like Houston. Plus 207 runs this year. The only team better is those Boston Red Sox, 218 runs. And with Houston's injury issues that they've had with their superstars all being out, I really like them. I really like them to go deep into the playoffs. Their offense, once it gets healthy, is going to be very formidable. And so we're going to move on from A's. Yeah, let's go across the bay. Let's talk SF Giants. Do you want me to go first again? Because I have some feelings on the Giants right now.
You can go first.
Let's talk about the Giants. Unfortunately, the Giants suck right now. I'll be honest with you. The Giants are really bad at baseball. The Giants right now, though, are winning 4-0. That is good. But the Giants
driving a run, by the way.
Giants are bad at baseball. Yeah, we'll keep you updated on that game. The Giants are bad at baseball, though. 4 games under 500. Their all-stars have cooled off second half of the season. Belt hasn't been all of that great anymore. Crawford has cooled off. He started cooling off before the All-Star break. Although, he had that 3-run jack just a few moments ago, earlier today. By the way, Brandon Crawford moved all the way back to 6th in the lineup today. He's hitting 265 now. He's completely cooled off from his All-Star
I think
start.
That's a good move for them. I mean, we saw it a long time ago where they moved him back, and he had so much success for them. So I like that move.
Okay, but let's really talk about where the Giants are right now. The Giants, they're not making the playoffs this year. I think that they thought they were going to compete a little earlier, but they're not making the playoffs this year. Trading McCutchen seems like a logical move. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later. I think the Giants completely have to rebuild right now. So I think it's a good move to start by trading away McCutchen and move on from there. But, yeah, I don't think the Giants have any sort of a shot. And I like the move to get rid of McCutchen because McCutchen, he's too old to be on a team that's rebuilding. And also, I would watch out for them looking to trade Giants legend Buster Posey. It's a sad thought. But it could happen at some point. It could happen. If they do finally admit that they need to rebuild. But the only issue with them rebuilding is that right now they're still selling tickets, so they really don't have any reason to rebuild business-wise because they're still making money. I believe the last time it was released, the Giants were 4th in attendance in the MLB, and they're not even that good.
That's really the problem with the Giants. The Giants fan base isn't patient enough to rebuild, and they still believe in the team, which is
good for the business, but it's bad for the team.
Ball, but it's problematic because now the Giants think they can win, and they shouldn't.
So they're gonna ride it out business-wise, which does make sense because they're still making money, and that's what's important. So I think that they will ride it out, but I think that ultimately it's gonna come down to you guys are gonna have to go into a Houston Astros type rebuild because Belt, Crawford, Posey, all those guys, Pence is already fallen off. All those guys that carried those teams that won the World Series, Bumgarner, they're going to get older and they're going to stop being so great. They're going to end up having to rebuild. And that's what I think about the Giants. And so let's talk about we have our next section of the show. We have 2 sections at the end of our shows that we're going to do every week. Let's talk about one thing that we want to see. Each of us has one thing we put in our notes that we want to see, and I'm going to talk about the Giants. I think they should immediately launch into a full rebuild right now. And I'm going to say that starts by, unfortunately, let Madison Bumgarner go. Madison Bumgarner is an absolute World Series hero. I have a picture on my wall, literally I'm looking at right now, of when he went 5 innings in Game 7 of the 2014 World Series in Kansas City, coming for the 5-inning save. He was originally, I remember, awarded the win, but they had to rescind it and give that to Jeremy Affeldt because Jeremy Affeldt was a pitcher of record at the time. But Madison Bumgarner was an absolute World Series hero. He's one of the fan favorites around here. But ever since that dirt bike accident, it's been tough. I mean, he's still one of the better pitchers in the league, but I don't think that it makes sense for us to give him big money if we're going to have a team that's like 4 games below 500. That's not worth spending all that money on going into luxury tax. I think Madison Bumgarner goes. And I'm going to go back to trading Buster Posey. Buster Posey's still one of the best players in the league. He's still an all-star. I think Buster Posey has to get traded because I think there's a lot of teams right now that could use a nice catcher that can actually hit. And teams in the AL could use Buster Posey because then they can get a catcher and then every 3 days, you don't have to catch, you can DH. I think that's a perfect spot for both Buster and whatever team gets Buster. I mean, you think the Yankees couldn't use Buster Posey right now? Really? With Gary Sanchez, the way he's been playing this year, and the way he's injured right now. I mean, the Yankees would love Buster Posey right now. There's teams that could use Buster Posey. And I think that it makes sense for everyone to trade Buster Posey to a team in the AL that can use him and also DH him sometimes because he's getting old. He's getting old.
The Red Sox catcher is Sandy Leone. He's literally the worst player.
They're the best team in the league. They're the best team in the league. They could use a catcher. The Indians have Yan Gomes, who made the All-Star team somehow. He's batting like 240 something. There's a lot of teams that could use a catcher. The catcher is a really weak position hitting-wise right now. So I think Buster Posey should be traded. Unfortunately, because Buster Posey is one of my favorite players because he's one of those... he was MVP 2012, 2010 Rookie of the Year, won 3 World Series for my team. I love Buster Posey, but I think that it makes sense for him to be traded. And I think the Giants need to go full Houston Astros tank and then go for that 2028 World Series title. Get that Even Your Magic going again.
Okay, well, ours kind of have something to do with each other. So his was about the Giants rebuilding, and the one thing we really see rebuilding in other sports is how they can utilize their draft picks and how other teams utilize their draft picks. So one thing I would really like to see is people start trading their draft picks. I think that would be great for the league. It would be good for ball if you could trade your second round pick and
you can do it in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, you can literally, if you have a continuous fantasy baseball league, you can trade a draft pick and a player for a better player. How come you can't do that in the MLB?
Come on, cuz.
Like that's just it's good for ball. It would be great. That's what I want to see the progress with the league. That would be nice. Now we're gonna do my favorite game.
We have another section.
Soon will be your favorite game. It is called State of. How it works is we will talk about one sports from either team.
One team from each major sport.
I have a random named generized. What is it called?
Random name generator.
Yeah, generator.
Basically, he plugged every team in the MLB, NBA, and NFL into a random team picker, and it'll pick one team, and then each of us will say what we think is the state of that team. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so you'll understand it as soon as we get into it. What sport are we going to do first, Drew? You're running this section.
We are going to start. Let's start with football.
This is Drew's second favorite sport of the three. My third favorite. I'm a basketball guy. Let's pick a team. Go first,
Drew. Picked a team, and we get the Giants. So, state of the New York Giants. They're trash. Their quarterback is especially trash.
Oh, throwing shade at Eli Manning, I see.
It's not shade if they're actually trash, Chris.
Hey, well, it's still throwing shade. It doesn't matter if it's true.
Eli Manning is booty hole. They could literally take the Dolphins' backup quarterback and win more games.
No, Jay Cutler is not better than Eli Manning. Jay Cutler is not better than anybody, including Johnny Manziel. 4 picks in the CFL in the first half. Carry on.
So, I really don't like Eli Manning. Well, I used to like him. He beat the Patriots. I hate the Patriots. I hate everything about the Patriots. But now, I can't. I just can't.
You think he's bad? You think he's
I can't. He needs to retire. Like, his brother did it right. Hey, you know what you need to do? You know what you need to do? You need to find a team that the one thing they're missing is a quarterback. And just tank with that team and win a ring. Just be like...
They're called the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, go to the Jaguars. I love the Jaguars.
And they have his old coach, Tom Coughlin, up in the front office.
You just say, hey, Blake Bortles, you're almost as bad as I am. Move over. I want to win a ring, then I'll retire. You can go back to living your life. That's all they need to do, and they'll be fine, and then he can retire, and the NFL will be twice as good. Okay. Goodbye, Eli Manning. I do like Saquon Barkley, but he's going to need someone else, I think, to take a little bit of the attention off him, like I talked about earlier.
Okay. Let me give you my take on the Giants and their state as a franchise right now. It is not going to be as loud. You are welcome. Anywho, New York Giants, they sucked last year. They sucked really, really, really bad. You know why? Because they lost their best player, Odell Beckham Jr. And when you lose your best player, it doesn't help your team. It makes your team a lot worse. Now they have their best player back, hopefully back, ready to go, healthy, playing a full season. I think the Giants still aren't going to be all that good. I think they'll be a team that's going to be somewhere between 7-9 and 9-7. And I believe that because I think that their offense is absolutely explosive. With these 3 weapons, Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, and Saquon Barkley, I think that team can have some games where they're putting up 40 points, despite having Eli Manning. Maybe because it's Eli Manning, it'll only be 1 or 2 games. But if they had a better quarterback in there, say they have Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a solid quarterback. I think we can agree on that. He has some flaws, but he's a solid quarterback. Derek Carr is putting up 40 points 4 times with those weapons and the rest of their team. Evan Engram also, another really nice weapon. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a premier running back in this league. He's got the physical ability to do anything to a defense. He's going to make people miss. He's really quick. He makes nice cuts. He's really good. Saquon Barkley is going to be great in both catching and running the football. I think that they've got an offense that has potential to be explosive and has just as much potential to be inconsistent. As Drew mentioned, there is a man standing in the way of this team's greatness named Eli Manning, who is not going to be able to carry this team to the promised land again because he is not that great. He's a good quarterback.
Not that great.
He's a solid quarterback.
When Chris says not that great, he means terrible.
No, I don't mean terrible. I don't think Eli Manning is a terrible quarterback. I think Eli Manning is a average quarterback.
Archie Manning would be a better quarterback than him today.
That is definitely false, Drew. The best ability is availability. And Archie Manning would get crushed by each tackle. But anyway, Eli Manning is not a great quarterback. I am not as strong in my opinion on this as Drew is, but I don't think he's a great quarterback, and I don't think that he's going to be able to take this team to a high level, but I think that they'll be okay. They'll be decent, which isn't that great. So let's move on to basketball, my favorite sport. What do we got here? We have the Milwaukee Bucks, that's my squad. All right, I'm going first on this one.
Chris's second
I'm going
favorite
first on
team
this
in
one.
the NBA.
I'm from Oakland, California. I'm a big Warriors fan, but my man Giannis Antetokounmpo, I've been on the wave since day one, since before he became an all-star, my man. I even know how to spell his name. Don't even at me. Antetokounmpo. Look it up. Google it. Ask Siri. Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of my favorite players. He's so fun to watch. He's a great player in this league. And you know why? Because he does everything on that court. He's a point guard. He's a small forward. He's a power forward. Shoot, play him at center. I've done it in 2K. It works perfectly because he blocks shots. He's 6'11", man.
He's not a shooting guard, though.
I mean, you can play him at shooting guard, though, because he can score on any shooting guard. He can guard any shooting guard. He can't shoot. But, I mean, you can play him wherever you want. He's a big dude, though. He can compete with any athlete on the floor at all times. And there's no one that has a physical ability to guard him. He's like KD, but better at attacking the basket. Better dunker. He's a better driver. I mean, in terms of handles, he's comparable. Maybe even better in terms of how he's able to create attacking to the basket. KD's better at creating jump shots than Giannis is, but Giannis is better at creating layups and dunks, I would say. I mean, Giannis is an incredible player because of what he's able to do in terms of getting buckets for himself and for his teammates. And remember, his first year of an All-Star, when he averaged around 23 points a game, he led his team in points and rebounds and assists and steals and blocks, all 5 major categories led by one man, and that is why he's one of the best players in the game. And with his supporting cast, especially Chris Middleton, who I believe is very underrated, Giannis is going to be able to carry his Bucks to the 5th seed, I believe, in the East this year. Obviously, Boston's number 1. They're going to the finals already. I think it's confirmed. I mean, I think that you have to still put 76ers, the 76ers, at the 2 right now, as they're going to have their guys improve, and they're going to pass up Toronto, who's going to get the 3 seed. I think that you have to put Indiana at the 4. They're not going to get much worse. I mean, Victor Oladipo, Tyreke Evans is going to be great off the bench. Victor Oladipo is going to be good again. And I think the Bucks fit right in there at the 5 seed. They did lose Jabari Parker, but Jabari Parker barely played. He was injured often, which is unfortunate. But I think that Dante DiVincenzo is going to be a solid player off the bench. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the East right now, including Kawhi Leonard, unless Kawhi Leonard gets healthy and plays like he did a couple years ago when he was 3rd in the MVP voting. But I think the Bucks are in an okay position, but they need to get another player, and that I think it has to be through a good draft pick, where they get somebody at a Kyle Kuzma, where they got him at the end of the 1st round, or it has to be a trade because you're not getting Big Time free agents coming to Milwaukee. Let's be honest. Drew, what's your take on the Bucks?
I have no comment on the Bucks. I'm not that big of a Bucks fan.
Bucks all the way,
I can't really roast them, so no comment on the Bucks. But I did like what you said. All
right, let's do baseball.
Please be the White Sox. Please be the White Sox. Please be the White Sox. Please be... No! It's the Rays. I'm fine with the Rays. They're just not the White Sox.
Tampa Bay. I want to live in Tampa Bay. I'm going to Florida. You got to live in Miami, my guy. So, Tampa Bay Rays. What is wrong with the Tampa Bay Rays? They answer everything. Chris Archer used to be good. Then he started sucking. Then he got traded away to the Pirates. The only good player they really have is Blake Snell. Kevin Kiermaier can't hit. What's his name? Sergio Romo is their best starting pitcher. Besides Blake Snell. I don't like the Rays have to tank. They got to tank. Come on now.
What do you mean?
Get everyone out of there.
The Rays have
the only good player that the Rays have, besides Blake Snell, the only good hitter the Rays have, is a legend by the name of Malik Smith. Hey!
Malik Smith is the MVP of the league.
By the way, Malik Smith hit a home run off the against the Yankees when Drew and I went to the game.
Was that Luis Sessa?
Yeah, I think
Luis Sessa's terrible, by the way.
Well, yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Malik Smith.
Malik Smith is the second greatest player of all time, behind NSR's very own Wilson Kahn. Shout out to Wilson Kahn. I'll give a couple more shout-outs at the end.
What a goat.
I love Wilson Kahn. Malik Smith is even better.
Malik Smith is on the DL? No! I love Malik Smith. Anyway, Malik Smith is an incredible player. He's hitting .307, 2 dingers. You know Malik Smith. He robs bases. Malik Smith is a goat. Anyways, Oh, by the way, hitting 400 over the last week.
And has the best name in the MLB. Second best, Ryan Baroque has the best name. Then Malik Smith. And he played for the Braves.
Oh, yeah, and he's 27 steals this year. So, yeah, Malik Smith, good player. They got to get younger. They've got to get better. They've got to fix everything that's wrong with their roster, which is literally most of the roster. Only two guys that can stay are Malik Smith and Blake Snell. And Sergio Romo. He's a solid starting pitcher for some reason. Do you basically agree with me on the Rays? They're bad?
No.
You don't agree? You
No.
think the Rays are good?
No. I do think the Rays are good. Like,
Come on now, the Rays are
No.
stinking
They have a
Who's making this
problem.
big fella?
Big fella is Reese Hoskins. Bigger fella, I'm not sure. But anyways, the Rays are over 500. Now, that sounds crazy.
Okay, well, the Giants were over 500 like 2 weeks
they
ago.
are-
That still suck.
Like, what is this? 3.5 games over 500?
Dang, the Rays are 68.
They're legit. Like, the problem is that they literally have the two best teams in baseball in their division, which makes nobody think about them. But when you actually look at it, the Rays are, like, No. You want to see something? The Rays in the National League would be a wild card. They would be, like, they're one game behind. Let's see, what is this? They're a game and a half behind the Phillies in the East. So they'd be 4.5 back in the East. They would be like, I don't know, 7 back in the Central. And they're better. They're the exact same record as the Dodgers.
They're riding a 6-game winning streak right now.
So, I mean, like, Jalen Beeks is legit. Romo actually gets some saves when he's not starting. But this team is for real. Like, I like this team.
Bro, they had a dude playing that had a 103 average. Tommy Pham, ooh, he's having a tough time.
Hey, it's Frank Love.
Bowers. Oh, Matt Duffy, by the way, former Giant, thriving. Joey Wendell, young legend over there. I don't know. I really don't think they have a
Joey
shot.
Wendell's a former A, by the way. Anyways, we're about 70 minutes in, and we took enough time out of your day. So
Let's
we're
wrap
gonna
it up.
Let's
Wrap it up.
Shout out to a couple people. Shout out to Eli Lesser.
Goat.
Shout out to the MVP of the league. What's his name? Wilson Kahn, best player of all time.
You forgot
Best
his
wiffle
name.
ball player of all time.
That's
sorry,
true.
Wilson.
He is the best wiffle ball player of all time.
He's my favorite. Shout out to let's see, who else? Borna from last year. Adam Glick from last year.
Legendary.
Sean
He actually
from
is.
last year.
He actually is the second greatest wiffle ball hitter of all time, besides
Behind
Cruz.
Shout out to Cruz. Shout out to Ethan. And then, of course, shout out to Young Ginge.
And
Shout out
Russell.
to Russell Tabor. Shout out
To the
to the
Twins.
Nolans.
Twins
Shout out
for
to
sure.
all y'all. This is our first episode.
If you made it to the end, you're a real one. I appreciate it. I don't expect very many people to be here, though. It was a bit long. We'll have to shorten that one up next time, but thank you. Thank you very much for listening. That was the first ever episode, the pilot episode of This Week in the Bay. We will be back next week on Saturday. It's going to be a night show, we believe, though. This was an unusual one in the daytime. We have some other commitments tonight, so we had to do it in the daytime. But thank you very much for listening.
My birthday party starts at 3.
Yes,
Shout out.
Drew. Happy birthday to Drew. He turned 9 a couple of weeks ago. He turned 12 last week. So it's Drew's birthday party today. We cannot do the night show today. But we're going to be doing our shows at 9 p.m. Pacific time on Saturdays. Tune in every week. We'll make them shorter for you guys so it's easier to listen. Let us know what you thought. We'll be listening. We'll be making sure we can improve on our stuff. And
Go White
thank you.
Sox. And
Actually, it's Go Giants, I think.
the
and
Orioles suck.
Go Warriors.
Go Warriors. Go Giants. Go San Francisco Giants. Go 49ers. Go Raiders. Go Sharks. Go Earthquakes.
You don't even
Go
watch.
A's.
You don't even watch soccer. No one watches soccer in our family. Anyway,
Shout out.
and last but not least, Dodgers suck. Goodbye.